The night everything changed. The Miami skyline glittered like scattered diamonds against the black velvet sky. On the rooftop of the Ocean Pearl Hotel, champagne flowed freely and laughter echoed through the warm night air. Victoria Chen stood near the glass railing, her emerald silk dress catching the moonlight, making her look like something from a dream. At 32 years old, she had everything she had ever wanted: power, money, respect, and tonight, the announcement of her engagement to Marcus Sterling, one of the most influential men in Miami's financial world. But as Victoria stood there, staring out at the endless ocean, she felt nothing but emptiness. "Victoria, darling, come here," Marcus called from across the rooftop. His voice was smooth, commanding, the voice of a man used to getting exactly what he wanted. Victoria turned, forcing a smile onto her perfectly painted lips. Marcus stood surrounded by business partners and investors, all of them drinking expensive wine and talking about millions of dollars as if they were discussing the weather. She walked toward him, her heels clicking against the marble floor, each step feeling heavier than the last. As she reached Marcus, he wrapped his arm around her waist possessively. "Gentlemen, I'd like you to meet my fiancée, Victoria Chen. The woman who's going to make me the luckiest man alive." Everyone raised their glasses. Victoria smiled and nodded, playing her part perfectly. She had been playing parts for so long now that she barely remembered who she really was anymore. "Excuse me," she whispered to Marcus. "I need some air." Marcus frowned slightly but released her. "Don't be long. We're making the announcement in 10 minutes. Victoria walked away quickly, moving toward the quieter corner of the rooftop where fewer people gathered. She leaned against the railing, closing her eyes and breathing deeply. The ocean breeze felt cool against her skin, but it did nothing to calm the storm building inside her chest. "Rough night?" a deep voice said behind her. Victoria's eyes snapped open. She turned and saw a man standing a few feet away, holding a tray of empty glasses. He wore the simple black uniform of hotel staff, but something about him made her look twice. He was tall, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold secrets. His face was handsome in a quiet, strong way, and when their eyes met, Victoria felt something she hadn't felt in years: recognition. "I'm fine," she said coldly, turning back to the ocean. "Just needed a moment alone." "Of course," the man said. But he didn't leave. Victoria felt irritated. Was there something else? Before he could answer, she heard footsteps behind her. Marcus appeared, his face dark with anger. "Victoria, we need to talk. Now." "Marcus, not here. I said now." Marcus grabbed her arm roughly, pulling her closer to the edge of the rooftop. The bartender stepped forward. "Sir, perhaps you should." "Mind your own business," Marcus snapped. He turned back to Victoria, his grip tightening. "Did you think I wouldn't find out? Did you think you could go behind my back and investigate me?" Victoria's heart pounded. She had been careful, so careful. How did he know? "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, trying to pull her arm free. "Don't lie to me," Marcus shouted. People were starting to notice now, turning to look at them. "I know you've been looking into my accounts. I know you've been asking questions." "Let go of me," Victoria said firmly. Marcus's face twisted with rage. In that moment, Victoria saw something terrifying in his eyes. He wasn't just angry, he was dangerous. His hand moved to her shoulder, and suddenly she felt herself being pushed backward, toward the railing, toward the edge, toward the long drop to the street below. Victoria screamed. Everything happened in slow motion. She felt her body tipping backward over the railing, felt the cool night air rushing past her face, felt the horrible certainty that she was about to die. Her hands grasped at nothing, finding only empty air. Then, strong hands grabbed her wrists. The bartender had moved faster than seemed humanly possible. He leaned over the railing, holding her with a grip of iron, his face completely calm despite the fact that he was the only thing standing between her and death. "I've got you," he said quietly. "Trust me." For a moment, Victoria hung there, suspended between life and death, staring up into the stranger's dark eyes. And in those eyes, she saw something that made her gasp. She knew him. With strength that shouldn't have been possible for someone his size, the bartender pulled her up and over the railing, bringing her safely back onto the rooftop. Victoria collapsed against him, her whole body shaking, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. Security guards rushed over, surrounding them. Marcus stood frozen, his face pale, clearly shocked that his plan had failed. "What happened here?" the head of security demanded. "She tripped," Marcus said quickly. "It was an accident. She had too much to drink and—" "That's a lie," the bartender said calmly. His voice was steady, certain. "I saw him push her." Marcus's face turned red. "How dare you? Do you know who I am? I'll have you fired, arrested." "Sir, please step back," the security guard said to Marcus. He turned to Victoria. "Ma'am, are you all right? Should I call an ambulance?" Victoria couldn't speak. She was staring at the bartender, her mind spinning. Those eyes, that voice, the way he moved, it was impossible, but she knew. "Daniel," she whispered. The bartender's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. Pain. And something else Victoria couldn't quite name. "You should see a doctor, ma'am," he said formally, as if she were a stranger. "You've had a serious shock." "Daniel Rivers," Victoria said louder now, her voice shaking. "It's you. I know it's you." Marcus looked between them, confusion and suspicion crossing his face. "You two know each other?" Daniel finally met Victoria's eyes directly. "I don't know what you're talking about, ma'am. I've never seen you before tonight." But Victoria knew the truth. Daniel Rivers. The man she had been engaged to 3 years ago. The man she had loved more than anything in the world. The man whose heart she had broken into 1,000 pieces when she chose her career over him. And now he had just saved her life. 3 years earlier. Victoria Chin sat in Marcus Sterling's office, her hands folded neatly in her lap, trying not to show how nervous she was. She had worked at Sterling Investments for 2 years, starting as a junior analyst and working her way up through pure determination and brilliant work. Now, at 29, she was being offered the promotion of a lifetime. "Senior Vice President," Marcus said, leaning back in his leather chair. "Your own team, your own clients, a salary that most people only dream about. This is what you've been working toward, isn't it?" "Yes," Victoria said. "It's everything I've wanted." "There's just one problem," Marcus said. His eyes were cold, calculating. "Your boyfriend. Daniel Rivers." Victoria felt her stomach drop. "What about him?" "He's military, correct? Navy SEAL?" "He's a combat medic," Victoria said carefully. "But what does that have to do with—" "Everything," Marcus interrupted. "The clients I'm bringing you to manage are very particular about privacy and security. They won't work with anyone whose partner has military connections, especially not someone with the kind of clearance level your boyfriend has. It's a conflict of interest." Victoria stared at him. "You're asking me to choose between my career and the man I love?" "I'm not asking," Marcus said coldly. "I'm telling you how it is. You want this promotion? You want the life you've been working toward? Then you need to end things with Rivers. Today." Victoria felt tears burning in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "That's not fair." "Life isn't fair, Victoria. It's about choices. You can have love and mediocrity, or you can have success and power. But you can't have both." Marcus leaned forward. "Choose wisely. This offer won't come again." That night, Victoria sat in the apartment she shared with Daniel, waiting for him to come home from training. When he walked through the door, still in his uniform, his face lit up with joy at seeing her. "Hey, beautiful," he said, crossing the room to kiss her. "I've been thinking about you all day." We need to talk, Victoria said quietly. Daniel's smile faded. He sat down across from her, concern filling his eyes. What's wrong? I got the promotion, Victoria said. Senior Vice President. That's amazing. Daniel reached for her hand, but Victoria pulled away. I'm accepting it, she continued. But there's a condition. What kind of condition? Victoria took a deep breath. I have to end our engagement. The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel stared at her as if she had just spoken a foreign language. What? He finally said. Marcus says it's a conflict of interest. Your military background, my new position, it won't work. So we'll figure something out, Daniel said quickly. I can leave the military, find a different job. No, Victoria interrupted. I've made my decision. Daniel looked like she had physically struck him. You're choosing your job over us? Over everything we've built together? I've worked too hard to throw it all away, Victoria said. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face, but her voice remained steady. This is who I am, Daniel. This is what I need. What you need? Daniel stood up, anger and hurt warring on his face. 3 months ago, you told me I was all you needed. You said you couldn't imagine your life without me. Was that all a lie? People change, Victoria whispered. Not this fast they don't. Daniel shook his head. You know what? If your career means more to you than I do, then maybe Marcus is right. Maybe we don't belong together. He walked to the bedroom and started packing his things. Victoria sat frozen on the couch, wanting to stop him, wanting to take back everything she had just said, but the words wouldn't come. At the door, Daniel turned back one last time. I hope it's worth it, Victoria. I hope your big office and your big salary fill up all those empty spaces in your heart. Then he was gone. Victoria didn't see him again for 3 years. Until tonight. Back to the present. Victoria stood on the rooftop, security guards surrounding her, Marcus being questioned, and Daniel standing a few feet away, acting like a stranger. But Victoria knew the truth now. This was no coincidence. Daniel Rivers was here for a reason. I need to speak with him, Victoria said to the security guard. Alone. Ma'am, that's not. I said alone, Victoria repeated firmly. The authority in her voice made the guard hesitate, then nod. Everyone stepped back, giving them space. Marcus was being escorted away, still protesting his innocence. Victoria and Daniel stood facing each other, 3 years of pain and regret hanging between them like a curtain. Why are you here? Victoria asked quietly. Daniel's expression was unreadable. I work here. Don't lie to me. Not after everything. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, you should get checked by a doctor. You nearly died tonight. Because of Marcus, Victoria said. He tried to kill me. You saw it. Yes. Why would he do that? Daniel looked at her with those dark, knowing eyes. Maybe you should ask him. Or maybe you should ask yourself what you've gotten involved with. What do you mean? Marcus Sterling isn't who you think he is, Victoria. But then again, you never were very good at seeing people for who they really are. The bitterness in Daniel's voice was sharp enough to cut. Victoria flinched. I deserve that. I deserve your anger. But Daniel, please, I need to understand what's happening. What's happening, Daniel said slowly, is that the choices you made 3 years ago are finally catching up with you. You chose power over love. You chose Marcus Sterling over me. Now you're learning what that choice really cost. I made a mistake, Victoria whispered. The biggest mistake of my life. Yes, Daniel agreed. You did. He turned to walk away, but Victoria grabbed his arm. Wait. Please. Just tell me one thing. Did you know I would be here tonight? Daniel looked down at her hand on his arm, then back up at her face. yes. So this wasn't a coincidence. Nothing in life is a coincidence, Victoria. You taught me that. He gently removed her hand from his arm. Go home. Get some rest. And stay away from Marcus Sterling. He's more dangerous than you know. How do you know that? Because, Daniel said quietly, I've spent 3 years finding out everything there is to know about the man who destroyed my life. And trust me, what I've learned would make your blood run cold. With that, he walked away, disappearing into the crowd, leaving Victoria standing alone on the rooftop where she had almost died, with more questions than answers and a growing certainty that her carefully constructed life was about to fall apart. She pulled out her phone and called her assistant. Sarah, I need you to do something for me. I need a complete background check on someone. Daniel Rivers. Former Navy SEAL medic. And I need it by tomorrow morning. Of course, Miss Chen. Is everything all right? Victoria looked out at the Miami skyline, at the beautiful glittering city full of secrets and lies. No, she said. Quietly. I don't think anything is all right. As she left the party, Victoria didn't notice the man watching her from the shadows. Daniel Rivers stood on the lower balcony, his eyes following her until she disappeared into the elevator. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. 3 years, he whispered to himself. 3 years I've waited for this moment. 3 years I've planned. And now it begins. He pulled out his phone and sent a single text message, Phase 1 complete. She knows I'm here. Moving to Phase 2. The response came immediately, be careful. Don't let emotions compromise the mission. Daniel looked down at his phone, then deleted both messages. He had learned to be careful. The Navy had taught him that. Marcus Sterling had reinforced the lesson. And Victoria. Victoria had taught him the most painful lesson of all. Love makes you vulnerable. And vulnerability gets you destroyed. But revenge? Revenge made you strong. And Daniel Rivers had been planning his revenge for a very, very long time. Part 2, The Game. 2,000 words. The morning after. Victoria Chen woke up in her penthouse apartment with sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows and a headache pounding behind her eyes. For a moment, she thought last night had been a nightmare. Then she saw the bruises on her wrists where Daniel had grabbed her to pull her back from the edge, and she knew it was all real. She got out of bed slowly, every muscle in her body aching. In the bathroom mirror, she looked pale and exhausted. But it was her eyes that caught her attention. For years, they had been sharp, cold, calculating. The eyes of someone who had sacrificed everything for success. Now they looked different. Frightened. Uncertain. Alive. Her phone buzzed. 12 missed calls from Marcus. 15 text messages. All of them saying the same thing, they needed to talk, it was a misunderstanding, she was overreacting. Victoria deleted every message without reading them fully. There was a knock at her door. She threw on a robe and checked the security camera. Her assistant, Sarah, stood in the hallway holding a large envelope. Come in, Victoria said through the intercom. Sarah entered, looking worried. Miss Chen, are you okay? The news about last night. What news? Sarah pulled out her tablet and showed her. The headline read, Victoria Chen's near-death experience, accident or something more sinister? Below it was a photo of Victoria being pulled back over the railing by Daniel. The image was dramatic, terrifying, and had already been shared thousands of times. Great, Victoria muttered. Just great. There's more, Sarah said quietly. Marcus Sterling released a statement saying you were intoxicated and stumbled. He's claiming the whole thing was blown out of proportion. Victoria's hands clenched into fists. That lying. But Miss Chen, there's something else. Sarah handed her the envelope. You asked me to look into Daniel Rivers. I found everything I could. Victoria's fingers trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside were documents, photographs, and a detailed report. She sat down on her white leather couch and started reading. Daniel Rivers. Age 35. Former Navy SEAL combat medic. Honorable discharge, no, not honorable. Medical discharge due to PTSD and injuries sustained in the line of duty. 3 years ago, just months after Victoria had ended their engagement, Daniel had been accused of misconduct during a mission. The accusations had come from an anonymous source and were never proven, but they had been enough to end his career and destroy his reputation. Victoria's eyes widened as she read further. The investigation had been handled by a private security firm. A firm owned by none other than Marcus Sterling. "Oh my God," Victoria whispered. "There's more," Sarah said. After Daniel was discharged, he disappeared for 2 years. No one knew where he went. Then, 6 months ago, he resurfaced in Miami. He started work at the Ocean Pearl Hotel as a bartender. Just 6 months ago? Victoria looked up. Right around the time Marcus and I started dating. Sarah nodded. I thought that was strange too. So I dug deeper. She handed Victoria another document. The Ocean Pearl Hotel was sold last year to an anonymous buyer through a series of shell companies. I traced them as far as I could, and Miss Chen. I think Daniel Rivers owns that hotel. Victoria felt like the floor had dropped out from beneath her. He owns it? But he's working as a bartender? He's hiding, Sarah said. Or maybe he's hunting. Victoria stood up and walked to the window, her mind racing. Daniel wasn't just at the hotel by coincidence. He had positioned himself there deliberately, knowing Marcus and Victoria frequented it for business events. But why? What was he planning? Sarah, I need you to arrange a meeting. With who? Daniel Rivers. Tell him I need to speak with him. Alone. Today. Sarah looked worried. Miss Chen, are you sure that's wise? After everything that's happened. I'm sure, Victoria said firmly. If Daniel wanted to hurt me, he would have let me fall last night. He saved my life. That has to mean something. Or maybe he saved you because he has other plans, Sarah said quietly. Victoria turned to look at her assistant. What do you mean? Miss Chen, I've worked for you for 5 years. I've seen you make incredible deals, outsmart competitors, build an empire. But I've never seen you look at anyone the way you looked at Daniel Rivers last night. If he's planning revenge, making you fall in love with him again would be the cruelest revenge of all. Victoria felt a chill run down her spine. Set up the meeting, Sarah. And find out everything you can about what Marcus has been doing for the past 3 years. Finances, business deals, everything. After Sarah left, Victoria stood alone in her apartment, staring out at the Miami skyline. Somewhere out there, Daniel Rivers was playing a game. And Victoria had a terrible feeling she was the grand prize. The meeting. That evening, Victoria arrived at a small coffee shop far from the glamorous hotels and restaurants she usually frequented. It was the kind of place where people went to disappear for a while, to have conversations they didn't want anyone to overhear. Daniel was already there, sitting in a corner booth, wearing jeans and a simple black t-shirt. He looked nothing like the bartender from last night or the Navy SEAL from 3 years ago. He looked tired, guarded, and heartbreakingly familiar. Victoria slid into the booth across from him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Thank you for meeting me, Victoria finally said. You didn't give me much choice, Daniel replied. Your assistant was very persistent. I needed to see you. To talk to you without security guards and witnesses and your fiancé? Daniel's eyes were hard. Oh wait, I forgot. I saved you from him trying to kill you. Does that change the wedding plans? Victoria flinched. I ended it. I called off the engagement this morning. Something flickered in Daniel's expression, but it was gone too quickly for Victoria to read. Smart move. Marcus Sterling is a dangerous man. how do you know him? I think you already know the answer to that, Daniel said. Your assistant did her homework. I could see it in your eyes when you walked in here. Victoria leaned forward. Did Marcus destroy your career? Yes. Why? Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he said, because 3 years ago, after you broke my heart, I started digging into Marcus Sterling's background. I wanted to understand what kind of man was worth destroying our relationship for. What I found. He shook his head. Let's just say Marcus didn't appreciate someone looking into his secrets. What secrets? That's what I'm still trying to figure out, Daniel admitted. But I know he's laundering money through his investment firm. I know he's been embezzling from his clients for years. And I know that anyone who gets close to discovering the truth ends up ruined, or dead. Victoria felt cold. And I was about to marry him. You were the perfect cover, Daniel said. Beautiful, brilliant, respected in the industry. With you by his side, no one would suspect Marcus of anything. You gave him legitimacy. So everything was a lie, Victoria whispered. He never loved me. Did you love him? Daniel asked quietly. Victoria looked up and met his eyes. No. I think I knew that from the beginning. But I convinced myself it didn't matter. That partnership and ambition were enough. Are they? No, Victoria said. They're not. Another silence fell between them. Victoria could hear her own heartbeat, could feel the weight of everything she wanted to say but didn't know how. Why did you save me last night? She finally asked. If you hate me, if you've spent 3 years planning revenge, why didn't you just let me fall? Daniel looked away. Because despite everything, despite the fact that you broke my heart and chose him over me, I couldn't watch you die. I guess I'm not as good at revenge as I thought I was. Victoria felt tears burning in her eyes. Daniel, I am so sorry. For everything. For choosing my career over you. For not fighting for us. For being too blind to see what Marcus really was. I've regretted it every single day for 3 years. Regret doesn't change anything, Daniel said, but his voice was softer now. I know. But maybe I can help you now. Maybe together we can expose Marcus for what he really is. Daniel looked at her sharply. This isn't a game, Victoria. Marcus has killed people. He's dangerous. Then let me help you, Victoria insisted. I have access to his files, his accounts, his contacts. I can get you the evidence you need. Why would you risk that? Because it's the right thing to do, Victoria said. And because I owe you. I destroyed your career, your reputation, your life. Let me help. You get it back. Daniel studied her face for a long moment. Victoria could see him weighing his options, deciding whether to trust her. Finally, he pulled out his phone and showed her a photograph. It was a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, with dark hair and bright eyes. She was smiling at the camera, holding a stuffed bear. Her name is Emma, Daniel said quietly. She's my niece. My sister's daughter. 3 years ago, my sister invested her life savings with Sterling Investments. She trusted Marcus because I was dating you, and you worked for him. She thought it was safe. Victoria's heart sank. What happened? Marcus gambled it all on a deal that didn't exist. Fake investments, fake returns, all fake. When my sister found out, she tried to report him. 2 weeks later, her car went off a bridge. The police called it an accident. Daniel's voice was flat, emotionless. Emma became an orphan because of Marcus Sterling. Because of the man you chose over me. Victoria covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Oh God, Daniel. I didn't know. How could you? You were too busy climbing the corporate ladder to notice the bodies left behind. The words were cruel, but Victoria knew she deserved them. Let me help, she said again. Please. Let me do something to make this right. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "If you really want to help, here's what you need to do. Go back to Marcus. Tell him you forgive him for last night. Tell him you still want to marry him." What? Why? Because right now, Marcus thinks you're a threat. He tried to kill you because he thinks you know too much. But if you go back, if you convince him you're still loyal, he'll let his guard down. That's when we strike. Victoria felt sick at the thought of facing Marcus again, of pretending everything was fine. But she nodded. Okay. I'll do it. This is dangerous, Victoria. If Marcus suspects anything. I know, she interrupted. But I'm not the naive girl I was 3 years ago. I've learned how to play games. I've learned how to lie. Marcus taught me that. Something like respect flickered in Daniel's eyes. All right. But we do this my way. You follow my lead, you report to me, and you don't make any moves without checking with me first. Understood? Understood. And Victoria? Daniel leaned forward. Don't think for a second that this changes things between us. We're not rekindling some lost romance. We're not becoming friends. This is business. When it's over, we go our separate ways. Victoria nodded, even though the words cut deep. I understand. But as she stood to leave, Daniel caught her wrist. The same wrist he had grabbed last night to save her life. His touch was gentle now, almost tender. Be careful, he said quietly. I already lost one person I cared about to Marcus Sterling. I don't want to lose another. Then he released her and walked away, leaving Victoria standing alone in the coffee shop, her wrist tingling where he had touched her, and hope flickering to life in her chest for the first time in 3 years. The deception begins. 2 days later, Victoria stood outside Marcus Sterling's office building, her heart pounding. She had rehearsed what she would say 100 times. She had to be convincing. She had to make him believe her. She took a deep breath and walked inside. Marcus's secretary looked surprised to see her. Miss Chen. I wasn't expecting. I need to see Marcus, Victoria said firmly. Now. The secretary picked up the phone. A moment later, she nodded. He'll see you. Victoria walked down the familiar hallway to Marcus's corner office. The door was open. Marcus sat behind his massive desk, looking every inch the powerful businessman. But Victoria could see the tension in his shoulders, the calculation in his eyes. Victoria, he said, standing up. I've been trying to reach you. I know. I'm sorry I didn't respond. I needed time to think. About what happened at the party? Marcus moved closer. It was a terrible misunderstanding. You tripped, and I tried to grab you, but it looked bad. The stress of the engagement, the champagne. Marcus, stop, Victoria interrupted. She forced herself to smile. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to apologize. Marcus blinked. Apologize? I've been paranoid. Stressed. You were right, I've been working too hard, and I let my imagination run wild. That bartender filled my head with crazy ideas about you pushing me, but I know that's ridiculous. The lies came easier than Victoria expected. You love me. You would never hurt me. She could see Marcus relaxing, see him buying the performance. Of course I would never hurt you. Victoria, you're everything to me. I know, Victoria said softly. She stepped closer and took his hands. So let's forget about that night. Let's move forward. Let's focus on our future together. Our wedding? Marcus asked hopefully. Our wedding, Victoria confirmed. I don't want to wait anymore, Marcus. Let's do it soon. Next month. I want to be your wife. Marcus smiled, and Victoria had to fight not to recoil. This was the man who had tried to kill her. The man who had destroyed Daniel's life. The man who had murdered Daniel's sister. And she was standing here, holding his hands, promising to marry him. "Next month it is," Marcus said. He pulled her close and kissed her. Victoria kissed him back, even as her stomach turned. When they pulled apart, Marcus was smiling. "I knew you'd see reason. You're too smart to throw away everything we've built over a silly misunderstanding." "Of course," Victoria murmured. As she left his office, Victoria pulled out her phone and sent a text to Daniel, "It's done. He believes me." The response came immediately, "Good. Phase 2 begins now. Meet me tonight. Same place." Victoria deleted the messages and walked to her car. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. From anger. From determination. From the burning need to make Marcus Sterling pay.